Today I'm going to show you how I turn these free wood chips into beautiful compost that I use in my garden. The first step is going to be the prep. These arborist wood chips I got from Chip Drop. You can see there's a lot of big bits in here. Will these break down? Yes. Will it be fast? No. So instead of trying to use these large chips the way they are, I'm going to go ahead and run them through a 1/2-inch sifter. This is just some scrap wood and some 1/2-inch hardware cloth. This is by far the most tedious part of composting wood chips is the setup here, sifting all these chips. But I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to sift this material now than it is after it's composted, kind of wet and stuck together. So I'll put some chips on one side of this sifter, and I can either take the shovel and sift it around, or I can take my hand and kind of just go like this. And take the bigger pieces and slide them over and just work my way through. When you're doing this, make sure you're definitely wearing gloves because there's a lot of creepy crawlers that find their way into these wood chips. When this starts getting full, I'll move it over here. I'm just going to use these in my garden path. And then inside here, we got these wood chips that are small and manageable that'll break down really fast. Don't get discouraged at how tedious this is. In the long run, you're going to be thankful you did this now and not later. Now that I got my carbon source, the wood chips, we're going to need some nitrogen to make our compost. And grass clippings are one of the best there is out there. Fresh grass clippings, just cut, nice and wet. The weed seeds in here are not going to matter because we're going to get this nice and hot. I like to add some biodiversity with my nitrogen, so we're going to be grabbing stuff like this burdock here. And I got all this comfrey falling down all over the place, begging to be harvested. We're ready to get building our pile here. We got the comfrey, we got some grass clippings. Here's a couple piles that have been going for a while now. Got our sifted wood chips. To help speed things up, I have a couple accelerants. Here I have some coffee grounds, high nitrogen source right there, and urine. Now here's where people get kind of screwed up. So we know to make compost, we need greens and browns, nitrogen and carbon. There's a lot of different sources out there that'll tell you different ratios to use. I know a common one is 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. I've never been about that, especially when it comes to composting something like wood chips. We're gonna make this really simple. With the wood chips, we're going 1-to-1, and if for some reason you add more nitrogen, that's completely fine. We're not measuring anything, we're just gonna kind of stack it up in here like lasagna. I don't mind if things get a little sloppy with too much nitrogen because these wood chips are gonna soak all that right up. So let's get her going. I'm gonna start out by just wetting the base of this ring right here. Now you don't need to use rings like I'm doing here. This is just 2x4 welded wire. You can make big piles on the ground. The important thing here is that we're making large piles. Large piles heat up. At least 3 feet across and 3 feet high. Anything smaller, it's just not going to retain enough heat to get this compost action going. We'll go ahead, we'll sprinkle some chips down on the base here. I like to do everything in 1-inch layers. I know that seems kind of thin. You're going to see some people doing thicker layers. I like the 1-inch layers. And after every layer, I give her a nice squirt to moisten it up. Let's come in now with a little bit of comfrey. I like to chop it up. You don't have to, but it helps it break down quicker, get a little more juice out of it. There's our nitrogen. We'll come back with some wood chips sprinkled on top. Just enough to slightly cover all these leaves here. Give her a squirt. And let's go ahead and throw some grass clippings in there. Shake them so they're not clumped together. Some wood chips, a squirt. Let's add a little bit of coffee ground in there. Put some more comfrey in. Maybe some grass clippings mixed in with the comfrey. Cover all that up with some chips. And you guessed it, a squirt. This is what it looks like from the start here. You can see some of the greens poking through the browns here. Very repetitive. We're just gonna keep going through here, doing the same thing till we fill this thing as high as we can go with all these chips we got. The best time to do this is going to be the summer, just for the fact that I can get so many greens. The wood chips are here all season. I always have wood chips. But here in Michigan, we don't always have a lot of green stuff in the winter. Also, this time of year, it's nice and warm and humid outside, and those conditions help stuff break down quicker. Gonna go ahead and get some urine going now, since we're about halfway into the pile. Just pour it into a watering can and fill it up. And there she is. The pile is all set. It's about halfway up. You can see the wood chips mixed with all the greens here. Now what we're gonna do is let this pile sit for at least 4 days. And in that time frame, we're gonna come out, we're gonna check the temperature and see how we're doing. As a reference, here's where we're starting at, about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. 24 hours in, 1:30. It's been 4 days, so it's time to flip this pile. It topped out at 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and now it's down to about 120. If you want to get technical, it's actually been 6 days, because I was busy on days 4 and 5. You don't want to wait too long after day 4 to flip this, because those falling temperatures are a sign that we need to get more air into this pile to feed those microorganisms that are breaking down this material for us. So with these rings, what I can do is kind of shake it back and forth like this. Give her a tug up like that, and move it right here. And what we want to do is take this material and kind of flip it inside out and put it back into this ring. So I don't like to get all crazy, spread it out. So I'll just take the drier stuff, put a little of that on the bottom, some of the outsides. And I like to take some of the hot middle stuff and also mix that with some of the stuff that has been on the outside and isn't really breaking down yet. Just to get some of that good life mixed in. This is also a good time to correct your moisture levels. If you notice that this material is getting dry, you can go ahead and start giving it some squirts. This part's not very technical. You just want to get some of that outside material closer to the middle. Like to shake it up a little bit as I'm dropping it in, really get that oxygen back in there. Fire those organisms up. I found a dead chipmunk. Good time right now to go ahead and toss her in. In my last wood chip pile, I used like 18 fish carcasses in there. And man, that sure heated up pretty good. And that compost is looking great. So don't be afraid to throw some carcasses into your compost. There's all that heat coming out. And there she is, all flipped. Now what we're gonna do is let this sit for 2 days. Come back out here, flip it again. Then 2 days from that, flip it again. We're gonna keep doing that until this stops heating up. Alternatively, if you don't want to spend all your time flipping compost every 2 days for the next week or 2 weeks, what you can do is watch this thermometer. The temperature is going to rise after we just flip this. It's going to peak and then it's going to start falling down. When it starts falling down, that's when you know it's time to flip it. Anytime that needle is moving, you are good to flip. What you don't want to do is let that needle fall and become stagnant. That means your pile has gone anaerobic. All these organisms we're trying to give oxygen to and flip, give them extra moisture if we have to, they kind of cease to exist at that point. We don't want that to happen. We want this to stay alive, and flipping that is what does this. It's been another 2 days and we're back again. We're at about 130 Fahrenheit. So it's time to, once again, flip this pile. So instead of me showing you me flipping this pile every 2 days for the next couple weeks, that's kind of boring. We don't want to see that. Let's take a look at a pile that has gone through all the motions. So in this pile, we can still see some of the remnants of the fish carcasses. The top is kind of dry, but if we go inside here and look over, you can see that we are starting to get a really good breakdown of these wood chips. And the deeper we go, the better this looks. So you might be looking at that and saying, there's still tons of wood chips in there. This is the part where I have to be honest with you, because a lot of people aren't honest when it comes to composting wood chips, or even leaves for that matter. The thing is, when these piles heat up, that is a bacterial breakdown. The bacteria can only do so much. What naturally decomposes wood chips? Fungus. So what we've done is we let the bacteria come in here, start breaking down these chips, getting them nice and soft, opening them up. When they're opened up, the fungus can make its way in. So to actually finish our wood chip compost, we have to take this product we have, move it somewhere that is dark and moist. So here is something I like to call a finishing bin. It's just some pallets with some chicken wire. In the front here I have a solid board, so not much light gets in there. Let's take a look at this stuff. Look what we got here. Look how nice this compost looks. You can't see any wood chips. There's none left. Got a little worm sticking out there. Worm sticking out there. So what happens is, when you put these chips into a bin like this, nice dark damp spot, the fungi move in. Once the fungi are in there, it's going to attract stuff like the worms, some slugs, all kinds of other good bugs. They like to eat the fungi, and they dump their castings in here. So we get to where everything underneath this dry top layer here, we start getting into some beautiful compost. That's what it's going to look like after about 2 months of sitting inside the finishing bin. Now let's go take a look at some black walnut wood chips I composted about a year and a half ago and see what they look like at this point. Here's some of my older bins in the woods here. You can see I really don't tend to them too often because the creeper has taken over. But inside here I had stacks and stacks of black walnut compost buried under the straw. There's no sign that wood chips were ever here, but look at what this looks like. This is almost like a powder. This is perfect compost. That used to all be large black walnut chips, and now it is black gold. So let's recap what we've done. First step was to take the wood chips and sift them with a 1/2-inch sifter to get these chips broken down to a smaller size, so in the end of this whole process, they break down faster. We then took those chips and we mixed them with high nitrogen materials like grass clippings, some comfrey, some urine, some coffee grounds at a 1-to-1 ratio, not a 30-to-1, a 1-to-1. We let our initial pile sit for 4 days. The temperature got to about 140 and it started making its way down. Once that temperature starts dropping, that's when you know it's time to flip it. Our one rule with this is we do not let that temperature go down and bottom out. We want to catch it while it's moving. We flipped our pile to get oxygen into it, reignite those organisms, and heat the pile back up. We did this for every 2 days, and we clarified, if you're too busy to do it every 2 days, just make sure you catch it before the temperature bottoms out and you'll be fine. After flipping it several times, we noticed that the temperature never climbed. Our pile stopped getting hot. That was telling us that the bacteria is done and the fungi want to move in. So we take what's left here, we move it somewhere dark and moist, let the fungi come in. The fungi come in, do their thing. They start attracting stuff that likes to eat the fungi, like the worms and the slugs. They drop their castings in there, they break down what's left of those wood chips and leave us with a fine black compost. The entire process took approximately 2 months, but if you want to make it even finer, let it sit longer. So that's that. I'm gonna keep working on this bad boy over here. Make sure I got plenty of compost for the garden to add in the fall. And until next time, thanks for watching.